Israel's nightmare come true. Its revenge for the murder and kidnap of its people was to wage a bloody war in Gaza. Today, the two sides found their fury focused on the same target. Benjamin Netanyahu and Yahya Sinwar both stand accused of war crimes by the International Criminal Court. Its chief prosecutor said that although Israel had a right to defend itself, it was not above the law.
Intentionally causing death, starvation, injury, and suffering to the civilian population, including so very many women and children, are criminal means to achieve military and political goals.
Hamas's leadership is accused of crimes including murder, sexual violence, and taking hostages. Israel claims key Hamas figures are hiding in tunnels beneath Gaza, and that is how it justifies its onslaught from above. But it's been repeatedly accused by aid agencies of fueling a humanitarian catastrophe by stopping vital supplies from getting in. Israel denies that and described today's allegations against it as absurd.
This is like creating a moral equivalence after September 11th between President Bush and Osama bin Laden, or during World War II between FDR and Hitler. What a travesty of justice, what a disgrace.
It's now up to a panel of judges to decide whether to issue arrest warrants, which could make it difficult for Netanyahu to travel abroad. Whatever happens, today's announcement has already deepened Israel's isolation as it pushes on with its war. Chloe Keedy, News at 10, Tel Aviv.
Well, in Iran, 5 days of public mourning have been declared after the death of the country's president in a helicopter crash. Ibrahim Raisi, a hardline protege of the supreme leader, has been in power, or had been in power, since 2021. His tenure was marked by growing unrest for the Islamic Republic at home and abroad. This is a moment of deep shock for Iran. But those who bear the scars of brutality were nowhere on state TV tonight. These scenes of mourning, though, tell only part of the story. Of competing conservatives trying to replace the president, and of a leadership terrified by the threat of public disorder. No wonder they're trying to project unity and stability this evening.
Helikopterin parçaları burada.
Some of the mystery was cleared in the fading fog just after dawn.
Ve kaza yapan o helikopterin.
A TV reporter on the scene confirming that this was indeed the helicopter which had been carrying the now late Iranian president. The weather was blamed. An assessment supported by pictures from the mountainside where the helicopter came down. The regime keen to silence claims of foul play from within Iran or outside it. Raisi was seen on a visit to the northeast of Iran yesterday. Here, in the air, and alongside the foreign minister, who was also killed. He has been a familiar voice on the world stage since the start of the conflict in Gaza.
And the people of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Ambassadors rose to their feet at the UN Security Council today. But the man for whom they stood is also known as the Butcher of Tehran. And this is why.
There are 5 people here that were killed by the regime.
Ahmad Ibrahimi was a political prisoner in Iran who survived a massacre. He came face to face with Raisi, who was a judge in his case.
He was one of the mastermind of these atrocities, and I think the pain and grief of those people is somehow relieved today.
Crackdowns against protesters were a hallmark of his time as president too. Those who last night prayed for the president's safe return now mourn, as Turkish investigators reveal that his helicopter might not have had a signal system, and if it did, it wasn't switched on. The cause of this crash is still not clear. Rohit Katru, News at 10.
Well, next to Donald Trump's hush money trial, where Michael Cohen tonight finished giving evidence against his old boss. He has faced stringent cross-examination, even admitting stealing from the Trump organization. And Dan is in New York. Dan, obviously it's crucial to the prosecution case that their star witness delivers, so did he?
Well, I think he remained calm and collected throughout. He corroborated a lot of the other evidence that the prosecution presented and other witnesses. But as you say, the defence today did land a couple of punches on him, metaphorically speaking, particularly getting him to admit that he had stolen $30,000 in cash from the Trump organization, money that was in a brown paper envelope destined to a political consultancy. So that was a difficult moment. The defense then opened their argument, the prosecution having finished theirs, having rested, as they say. The defense called Robert Costello, who's a lawyer to people like Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon, both Trump allies. And in stark contrast to Michael Cohen, there was really quite a lot of consternation as he rolled his eyes and muttered and sighed, to the point that the judge had to clear the court at one point and give him a real ticking off and tell him to behave. The evidence of Costello will continue tomorrow, and then we are heading rapidly towards closing arguments. It seems clear now that Donald Trump is not going to be called as a witness, so closing arguments possibly late this week or early next week, and then the jury will be sent out for the end of this historic trial.
Okay, Dan, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's move on from a former president to a brand new one. William Lai has been sworn in as the president of Taiwan. Not that China would recognize him under that stately title. And while Mr. Lai has promised not to provoke his much larger Pacific neighbor, it is clear there are tense times ahead under his premiership.
Taiwan's new president has set the tone for what could be a turbulent 4 years in office. In his inauguration address, William Lai issued a direct warning to China to cease its threatening behavior.
I also want to call on China to cease their political and military intimidation against Taiwan, share with Taiwan the global responsibility of maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait as well as the greater region, and ensure the world is free from the fear of war.
It was a stronger statement than expected, drawing distinct battle lines between democratic and authoritarian rule.
William Lai has accepted what could be one of the most pivotal presidencies in Taiwan's history. Not only is he facing a difficult domestic agenda, he is now a global leader working to prevent another conflict in an already unstable world.
China's military is being trained with one mission in mind: to take control of Taiwan. This latest propaganda video signals a clear intent. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has asked us to call the new Taiwanese president a local leader, insisting Taiwan is not and never will be independent.
台湾是中国的一部分，台湾作为中国的一个省，没有独立地位。
There was a military element to the inauguration ceremony, but mostly on display was the fun and creative side of Taiwan. William Lai is now firmly in China's crosshairs, but taking centre stage with his new deputy, he at least managed to appear carefree. Debbie Edward, News at 10, Taipei.
Finally, they may boast the largest collection of fungi in the world, but only now will Kew Gardens' scientists be able to fully appreciate